Hello everyone. I just decided to make a little video about all of the stuff I'm currently working on, give you some short updates about each thing, and you know, just keep everyone on the same page about what I'm currently working on, when stuff is releasing, etc., etc. So, starting off, Super Sludge. The files are ready for open beta. They have been ready for a few months now, but I've been working with Silver Fox Industries on hardware kits and making sure that everything is ready for, everyone else to start building them. There has been closed beta on these with a few friends for the past few months, and I've worked out a lot of the kinks with the design. And with switching to Silver Fox hardware from Slug hardware, we now have shorter takedown pins that don't poke out the side of the blaster, so that's very nice. And we have some other small optimizations, like making it use Talon Claw length springs, so that works fine. 5.5-inch springs will work fine in this, K25 and 788. Yeah. This is pretty much ready. So when hardware for that is fully worked out and online, I will then release open beta. So probably sometime within the next month. Moving on, I recently kind of wanted to finally make a V1 Caliburn. I was in the Nerf Haven thread when it was being developed in late 2016. I gave Slug some advice on this when he was first making it, and he incorporated a bit of that, so I felt that was finally time for me to build one. But I didn't want to make a normal one because, there's lots of creature comforts that we have nowadays that didn't exist when this was first developed. So for instance, I made the Y at the front, which is the foregrip, printed. This is printed, so you're able to incorporate the mounting lugs for the priming bars into it and, tweak it. I gave it a collet on the muzzle, so the barrels can be easily swapped without marring them. And I made it fit the original aesthetic of it as well, best I could. I tweaked the mag release a bit. Just made it slightly more reliable, made this little thing at the top longer, and made this a bit better contoured. I modeled the, I guess you could call this a fillet, the relief in the back of the grip panels, which he has in the guide that you do on a belt sander with a rasp, cutting away the plastic sheet that this is normally cut out of. But I decided to print mine at first because I wanted to test my tweaks, and then eventually I'll commission someone to cut out these panels on, proper material. I switched the trigger to a slightly later version of the trigger that he had, and I also modified it a bit to better fit the hardware that I have. And then I changed this thumb screw up here to be one that Out of Darts sells for flywheelers, so that uses that now. And then most of the tweaks I made were back here. The original design uses a full, from here to here, it uses one long piece of plunger tube. But normal Caliburns nowadays just use this piece right here, and then they have a spacer at the back. So I made a printed spacer for the back, so I don't have to custom cut a long plunger tube. And then I also modernized the plunger and ram. So this now uses a V3 Caliburn ram to, be much better than the skirt seals that the original Caliburn V1 used. You can go to the Nerf Haven thread, just search on Google Nerf Haven Caliburn, and then you will find a Nerf Haven thread. And in the first few pages, you get to see how old school the original Caliburn was. It uses skirt seals for the plunger. But I changed that, so now it uses O-rings, and it uses a combination of a Lynx and a V4 Caliburn plunger, where it uses a threaded rod down the middle with a Lynx nut on the end, and then the plunger itself is more Caliburn styled with that big sheath along it. And then this arm is much longer to reach the back here, the sliding catch that the original Caliburn had. And then 2 different lengths of spring guide because I was still experimenting. But yeah, so I made this, I printed it, it works mostly fine. So I'm going to make some tweaks to this and then commission a proper one. So yeah, that's a neat little personal project. I'll probably release the files for this because, you know, why not? But yeah. Next, we have the Skirp, the revolver. Skirp stands for Silly's currently unnamed revolver pistol. I don't have a name for it yet, so that's what it is. You probably saw, previously posted, the original prototype for this is not the most reliable, and it doesn't seal very well. So what I'm going to be doing is probably redesigning the cylinder and the arm back here to better cam correctly and feed more reliably. And I'm going to also be redesigning the front end and the barrel, because right now the barrel and the breech O-rings are stationary. So they just slide against the plunger or the cylinder constantly, and the cylinder is split. So both ends are ends that are on the print bed, so I could print them on my smooth PEI build plate and have a smooth surface to seal against. It seals good enough to fire, doesn't seal good enough for me to be satisfied with it. So I'm going to be redesigning the cylinder to be one piece, none of the split stuff, so it gets a better seal. And I'm going to also spring load the barrel, probably keep the retention right here, but make it on a moving carriage that moves like this, with a little cap that keeps the O-ring that seals up against this face. Put that on there, and then have a piece of elastic that goes around it like that, kinda. And that will keep it spring-loaded, pushed up against the cylinder, and that will hopefully massively improve seals. But yeah, of course the back end of this, if you cut it off, kinda all of there we go. All of this stuff here is just normal silly pistol, except for that slide. All this stuff is just normal silly pistol. So yeah, it's pretty much a drop-on replacement front end, I guess you could think of it, for the silly pistol. So yeah, I'll be redesigning that stuff, hopefully soon, and get another prototype churned out. We have the V4 thumper. The thumper has been pretty much ready for release since like December, but I never had the time to make the feeding mechanism reliable. It was mostly reliable for all of that time, but every once in a while, when you were doing the forward stroke, it would jam up against the cylinder. And to fix that, all you would need to do is pull back on it again and then push it forwards again. It would go in. But that's not good for like trying to sling off 3 shots in quick succession. So I decided, okay, well, I got to redesign the cam track, so I did that, and it didn't work. So then I put it off for a few months, so I worked on some of these other designs. And then I came back to it recently, and I was like, okay, I'm going to finally redesign the cam track, and I designed it like this, and it works great. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can make the cylinders a little bit smaller, so I did that, and I was like, well, the entire back end is not really fitting of my design style now, so I completely redid that, and then before I knew it, I had fully redesigned the blaster from bottom to top. So now it's better. It uses a grip that better fits in with the aesthetics of the silly pistol with this nice rounded corner here. The top slide is basically a giant silly pistol top slide. It still uses this side arm with in a slot on the top slide. There is still a split version of the top slide for people that can't fit the whole top slide on their printer. So there's a split version of that. Cylinders are a lot smaller now, compared to the old version. I think I still have the old version. Yeah, here you go. So that's 3 rounds of the old clip. You can see. New one is a lot smaller. A lot smaller. So yeah, the entire design is massively improved. A lot lighter, easier to print, etc., etc. And the hardware is easier to produce now too as well. So when hardware is worked out for this as well, it'll be released. Finally. A lot of my releases have been delayed, not because the designs aren't ready. The designs have been ready, just because I don't want to release it without hardware being situated. And that got delayed more than expected by Slug shutting down his shop and me having to switch over to Silver Fox for hardware. But yeah, once hardware is worked out for this, and I have space in my release schedule, then I'll release this. I've been trying to release stuff either every week or every other week. And that's so I can space out releases so people don't have too many choices. And that might sound weird, but by putting out, let's say I have 2 massively popular designs. I have the Silly Pistol and the Super Sludge. And I both release them on the same weekend. Then people will have to decide, all right, I want to print one or I want to print the other. And then most of the time, they'll forget about the other thing for months and months and months. So I try to space them out 1 week or 2 weeks, because my designs are very easy to print, quick to print. So it gives people time to print one out, decide that they like it or don't like it, and then if they do like it, oh, well, I'll subscribe to him. I'll look at his Reddit, and then they'll see, oh, he just released a new thing the next weekend, and they'll print that. So you gotta space out releases so people don't have too many choices and forget about your other releases. And that also better hits news schedules and traffic. So, for instance, on the weekends, lots of people look at r/nerf. Not as many people look at r/nerf during the week. So I release either on Fridays or at some point over the weekend, so people can see this stuff the most. And every once in a while, I release stuff very late at night for me in Eastern time zone, so people in Europe can also get hit by that traffic of, they're waking up and then they see the post that I posted a few hours before bed, my time. And then when people in my time zone wake up, then they see that post as already upvoted by the people in other time zones. Then that goes even higher. So it's a lot of that game that you need to play with blaster design releases, or else your stuff falls by the wayside and no one sees it. But yeah, Thumper, it's good. It's going to be released hopefully within the next month. Next, we have the Silly Pistol. Silly Pistol is done. Pretty much done. I've done all the tweaks that I wanted to make to it. I've made most of the attachments that I wanted to make for it. I still need to make a holster side plate for that magnetic holster thingy. I have a tester that made their own version of that, and I'm waiting for the source files for that so I can modify it to better fit the design, and then fold that into the full release. There's various different top slides. Some of them have front little Picatinny, some of them have a little backstop there, some of them have sights, some of them have no sights. There's a front block that has Picatinny rail, There's from block that has no Picatinny rail. It doesn't come with a scar, it doesn't come with that. There are various different lengths of muzzle for if you have like a super long barrel that goes out to here to hit like 220 FPS with a Talon Claw length spring in it, you would do that. But if you want lower FPS with a normal spring, then you would use a shorter muzzle. I have a version of it that folds and a version of it that doesn't fold. As you can see there, that version folds, that version doesn't fold. Yeah, I have versions of the side plates that are slightly smaller to better fit on people's print beds if they have a smaller printer. Updated the grip a bit to have these wings on it that better center the trigger, keep it stabilized. I angled the back of the back strap down, so when this warps on the print bed, because it's a pretty small part, it might warp up. That way the slide doesn't hit into it when it warps up. So accounting for warpage, this is normally perfectly level, and then the top slide doesn't hit it. But if you don't account for warpage, then it would warp up into the top slide, and then it would jam on it. Loss. Sus. Bogus. So yeah, this is ready for release. Hardware kits, again, working on it. And I also have a bunch of people that are very interested in printing these and selling them. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to put pressure on them to go through with setting up production or not. But design is pretty much done. This will hopefully be released sometime within next month. Lots of things that are happening in the next month. Homemade Supermax 500. In case you're not familiar with the Supermax 500, that is not it. That's Super Tech 500. There you go. Oh, wait. Yeah. This is good canvas. There you go. There's a Supermax 500. So as you can see, fully printed version of that. It's going to have various different tank layouts. You can use an XBZ in it. You can use a AirTech 3000 or 2000 tank in it. And then you can modify the files yourself to fit whatever air pump you want. I'll probably be using just a bike pump from Walmart, spray painted white to better fit with this bit right here. I'll be modeling this muzzle so you can attach it to whatever end of the barrel you want. Or the end of whatever barrel you want, sorry. And I'll probably design a sticker like that and slap it there. This goes with my Sillymax 1400, which is a Titan tank inside of a Supermax 5000 shell. And you might have noticed in the past that the shell here is not fully Supermax 5000. It's a combination between this front end of the Supermax 500, right there, and then this back end is the Supermax 5000. But yeah, this design has been doing quite well. Titan prices have gone up a bit on eBay, sorry. But yeah, this design has been going very well, so I'm making this one because I like Supermax. Look at that grip checkering. Nice. Not finished, but yeah, that's going well. The Pump Skewer V2, also known as the best blaster. Pump Skewer V2, it's been done for a few months, once again. It's been waiting on hardware, once again. Hardware has actually been up for this on Silver Fox, but the blaster is not designed yet, or not released yet, because I'm waiting for them to finish fully printed blasters and get those sold. Super Stressed on Etsy has been selling fully printed Pump Skewer V2s. And those are selling very well. So this is a very successful design. In case you missed it, this is a Skewer by Caramel Designs. Caramel? Taffy. And then the front end is a bump action. And then it has various different stock options. You can have a fixed stock, you can have a collapsing worker stock, you can have an end strike lug, you can have a buffer tube, all that stuff. You can have a sling mount down there. Yeah. You can have full top pick rail, you can have no pick rail on the top if you want. And then it has a fully guided spring, optionally. The kits from Silver Fox don't come with that, so it's just like this. And then that works more like a normal Talon Claw. But if you get the fully guided spring, that's buttery smooth, and it's fantastic. It's a shorter prime than a Talon Claw. It feels nicer than a Talon Claw. It's much sturdier than a Talon Claw. It's just better than Talon Claw in all ways. Magwell is awesome. And I like it more than an SBL, but that's more of a subjective thing. It's definitely better than Talon Claw. It's probably more equal to an SBL. However, you can get the hardware here in the US much faster than waiting several months to get your SBL hardware, as I learned the hard way. But yeah, this is hopefully being released very soon. At the time of recording this, I'm hoping to release it this weekend, but I don't know if there's going to be delays. Who knows? But hopefully this weekend, which will be good. So this is nice. Print this. It's good. I've also been working on my Unbullpupped Links again. I had an old version of this previously, and I put that on pause for a bunch of months. I last worked on it in like October or November or something. Put that on pause to work on other designs. Came back to it recently, and I was like, wow, I did so many things wrong. So I've started it from scratch. Now it's this. It's going pretty well. I showed this to Dan from Onion Blasters, and his response was, "Wait, what?" As you can see, it's basically a Caliburn-ish, kinda. It has a Caliburn-style ram, but a Lynx-style plunger, so it's kind of wacky like that. These here are the priming bars now, not these. These are merely aesthetic, just for looks, and for structural stability. So these are printed fake priming bars, which actually support the muzzle now. Yeah, so this is going well. No idea when this will be released or even prototyped, but yeah, it's a fun little project. I enjoy making this. The back of Magwell. It does nothing. Yeah, that's going well. So the last two are the projects that I'm working on the most right now. The first one is a bolt action. The second one is the Slab, which stands for Silly's Lever Action Blaster. So it's a lever action. But I'll get to that in a moment. Here is the bolt action. I came up with this idea when I was trying to fall asleep a few nights ago. And I was like, there's so many ways that people have done bolt actions. However, they're never in a proper stock, a proper old style bolt action stock. They always have thumb hole stocks, or they have something coming out the back that, like, you need to stick your thumb through. So, I came up with an idea for a blaster where you don't need to have anything coming out the back to mess with your stock. So this is, imagine that there is a bolt here that you pull on, something like that. And it has a piece of paracord attached to the front of it. and it goes around here, along this edge, down over this front pulley, over that front pulley, around this pulley, and then connects down here with a knot through this hole to keep it in place. So as you pull back, and imagine that this is like there, as is this. This is attached to that. So as you pull back on the bolt, it pulls the string down and around that, and pulls this forwards, like that, with the plunger head as well. But it pulls it forwards like that. It catches right here, and then there will be some sort of trigger mechanism somewhere here that triggers that catch. But yeah, you pull it back, push it forwards, pull the catch, this slams forwards, goes into a turnaround like a Lynx, and shoots out the front. Pretty simple idea, but it's been a bit messy to implement in a, not necessarily a way that looks good. I can make anything look good, or good enough for me, but it's been hard making it in a compact way, because if you look at this white bit right here is as wide as the silly pistol frame is. So this is like a full centimeter or two wider, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I really strive for making all of my designs as thin and compact as possible. So trying to make this as compact as I can has been a bit of an experience, but it's been mostly fine. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and hopefully it gets done. I've had to think a lot about the directions that things are printing now. Like this entire thing right here is a Lynx magwell, but it's printed on, would be printed on that face if that was level. Yeah. So it's printed like this. There we go. So you can imagine that this is the magwell, and then instead of being printed vertically, it's actually printed like that. And then there's two halves of that are sandwiched together to make the magwell. So lots of funky stuff with this design. Don't know what funky bits of that I'm going to keep, but yeah, it's looking promising so far. And because of the pulley system, the dual pulley system up here, it gives you 2x mechanical advantage. So this is a silly pistol sized plunger tube and basically a silly pistol plunger. However, with the pulley system, you have to prime it 2 times as long. However, you get 2 times the mechanical advantage. So you can put a Talon Claw length spring in this. However, it will give you half a Talon Claw length, or half of a Talon Claw length spring worth of force that you need to pull back. However, you need to pull it back 2 times as long. So that's why I'm using a silly pistol plunger tube, because this is only a 2.5 inch prime to get it primed, which gives you a 5 inch prime backwards, and that is pretty much the same as an Indra. So this will give you an Indra-like prime, probably similar to Indra performance, but it will be a lighter prime than an Indra, and it will look neat and feel neat. So yeah, I'm very excited for this design. I'm very excited to see how I can use pulleys in future designs as well, because it's very neat. I like it. And lastly, for stuff in Fusion, we have the Slab, which is Silly's lever action blaster. There's lots of problems with this design. I fully printed a prototype of this version right here, except for the stock. I didn't print any of that. So I just printed it like that just to test it out. It's awful. It is truly awful. you're at massive mechanical disadvantage here in the prime back here. This front end doesn't feel very nice, even though it's very nicely textured. You don't have a place for your thumb. You can wrap your hand around this, but your thumb would have to loop around here. So it would have been better positioned like that, kinda. But yeah, that's like that. In case you didn't notice, this is basically just another silly pistol derivative. This lever here pivots down, goes on these pins, and pulls this back over where your hand would be when firing. So like that. But because your hand is on the lever, it doesn't get hit by that. And it goes forwards. So it's like, okay, cool, that will work. I completely forgot about this still sticking out when it is primed. So this would eat your hand when you fire it. So not my brightest moment. Other than feeling like crap and not being able to prime it with the lever and having to top slide prime it to test it, it works great. So there are aspects of this design that I really like. I really like the size and shape of the lever. This is basically a flak lever, heavily modified. I really like the stock. This general the general shape of this stock was made by Vikinger for a flak upgrade, and he also makes that like big stock for the Talon Claw and Talon Claw V4 or T4. So he made this kind of stock for the flak. And I was like, yo, I don't want to make my own stock. So I asked him if I could have source files for his. He gave me them, and I've heavily modified them, but it's still mostly his geometry. It's quite comfortable. I changed a ton about how the parts are printed and which parts are which, because I think that originally this stock was like there would be a part sliced there, 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 and there, and there was like little things in between all of them that dovetailed together. I love dovetails. I don't like dovetails like that for aesthetic reasons, though. So I used screws. I love screws. But yeah. So these are split like that, and then there's dovetails internally to keep that nice and sturdy. But yeah, I really like this stock. So since this entire front end and mechanism doesn't work, I'm planning to completely make a new blaster and just call it the Slab. The same name for a completely different blaster, because I really like the name, Silly's Lever Action Blaster. I might change it, but who knows? I'm just going to make a whole new blaster, and the mechanism that I'm thinking for that will be, it won't have arms there, and it won't have a top slide. It will use a Lynx turnaround, and it will basically be sort of an Indra with a Lynx turnaround on it, if you can think of it like that, with a silly pistol in the front. It's a very odd concept, but basically let's see if I can I'll MS paint it for you, or paint 3D it for you. So you can imagine, here is your turnip, here is your barrel, here is your plunger tube, here is your plunger, and here is your catch. And there's a turnaround in between those two bits. Then there's a trigger somewhere in here, like that, kind of. I don't know. You can imagine it kind of like that. Imagine this entire front end is held by a lever. So imagine this entire barrel, turnaround, and plunger is on a lever like that with a kind of support brace. And when this lever pivots down, all of this junk here will move forwards. That will give this plunger here, it will then catch here, and then all of this, except for the plunger, will come backwards, moving the plunger tube over the plunger itself, and then at some point you'll have a trigger there. It will shoot it, plunger goes down into the turnaround, comes out the front, and all that stuff happens. And then somewhere in here you have the magwell, then you have a stationary pusher, kind of like that. So the pusher will stay here, and then the turnaround, magwell, plunger, barrel will all move around it, kind of like that. Hopefully that will work. I'm hoping that I'll be able to use a silly pistol, plunger, and plunger rod, and all that stuff, because I really like this geometry. It really works quite well for a lot of different designs. But I'll make it kind of like a floating catch, and then like cut off this end, flip it around, and kind of do that. And hopefully that works a lot better than this flaming pile of garbage. I'll probably make a video about that other thing sometime. But yeah, that was this design. But I'll be remaking all of this. So that's all the stuff I have in Fusion 360 that I'm really working on actively. And then there's two last things I wanted to mention before I close out the video. The low hardware Talon-Claw U is released on GitHub. My GitHub is github.com/sillybutts, and then you can go to low hardware TCU. Here is your low hardware Talon-Claw U. People have already been working on upgraded parts for it. This right here is not my own build. This is by Ian Whitehouse. He has been working on a buffer tube stock point for his, along with, I think, a high airflow RAM. Because it's fully printed, you can just make it bigger instead of having to machine your own one on a normal Talon-Claw. So you can just print it wider. So he's designed that. And, you know, this has been very neat. So my original design, this right here, is now up on GitHub. You can print it and build it. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's not meant to be a blaster that you use in every war. It's more meant for novelty. But some people, such as this fellow here, have decided to, you know, make it a proper blaster that you use as your primary, as opposed to just a neat thing, which is what I designed it for. But yeah, all that jazz there. And then lastly, I have made a stock for the skewer, because people really want a stock on their skewer. So the skewer now has a stock. You're welcome. It's modeled after the Scubo stock, modified a bunch to better fit on the skewer itself. It doesn't look the best, but it functions very nicely. So if you want a stock on your skewer, there you go. I'm also working on a V3 or V4 or whatever it is, a new version of the Scubo to make assembly way easier, make the hardware easier to make, massively improving it, so some shops can start building them. Oh, and I guess I forgot to... Did I upload my... I made a call it. Yes, I did. Skewer barrel call it. I also made a barrel call it for the skewer to better keep your barrel in place, because the original mechanism didn't really keep the barrel in place very well. This one is the same one I use on the silly pistol, on my Talon-Claws, on my Caliburn, on Magbow, on all of my things that need a barrel held in place very well. So I just spliced that onto the skewer, and that's there. I think Taffy is going to add this to the main file set on the next version of the skewer, but if you have an old skewer or one that currently you already have, print this bit and slap it on there. It'll keep your barrel in place much nicer. And I guess I'll close out the video with mention of, I like money. Apparently Redbubble doesn't like me, but I have a Patreon still. I would appreciate it if you decided to donate. I like money, and I don't make much money off of blaster designs, hardware kit sales, all that stuff, so any donations are extremely appreciated. And I also have, Patreon, you can subscribe monthly, and, you get various tiers depending on which vintage blaster you are. I love me some Supermax and some Caliburn, or some crossbow. And then you can also donate to me on Buy Me a Coffee, where it is a one-time donation. So you can just give me a slab of cash, and I'll spend it on hardware to better make blasters. And then I also have an Etsy, where I made little screw top containers in dart shapes, as you can see. And you can print this at whatever scale you want, and it will work. I designed the threads to be scalable. You got an Adventure Force Pro the size of a Mega XL, various different dart heads, all the dart heads, all the dart foams. Some of them are multiple parts, but yeah. If you want to print this, go here, buy it. Etsy is a Sludge shop. It's also linked on my GitHub. And apparently Redbubble does not like me. It doesn't like linking to places. But whatever. I made some new stickers recently. And I opened up a bunch of my designs, and now you can get them on shirts. So if you want to get some nice Nerf-looking designs, I have my Redbubble shop. I'm Silly Butts on Redbubble as well. Yeah. That's pretty much it. If you ever need to find any of my links to my stuff, it's all on my GitHub, github.com/sillybutts. Got my Discord there, got my Reddit, Thingiverse page they don't use anymore because Thingiverse is awful, YouTube page, which you're already watching this on, all of those, Etsy, Redbubble, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee. Yeah. Go print all of my designs. They're great. Yeah. That's pretty much all that I have for this update. Things are getting released. Things are getting worked on. It's all going pretty well. If you have any questions about any of the things I talked about in this 45-ish minute long video, feel free to just leave a comment. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed a little look into what I'm currently working on, even if it was a rambly mess. Yeah. Alright, bye-bye.